The mysterious encounter. The planet's surface was barren and gray, covered in jagged rocks and thin layers of ash-like dust. Jack Lewis adjusted his helmet, his reflection briefly visible in the visor. He had been trained for solitude, but even his training couldn't prepare him for the eerie silence that surrounded him. Every step he took seemed louder than it should have been, the crunch of his boots echoing in the emptiness. Jack's mission was simple, or so he had been told. Land, collect samples, and leave. The planet, designated Cillian 7, was unremarkable in every way the mission brief had described. Its atmosphere was barely breathable, its landscape devoid of life. Yet the readings had shown faint traces of something unusual, something the scientists back on Earth couldn't explain. As Jack bent down to collect a sample of the gray dust, a strange sensation prickled the back of his neck. He froze, his gloved hands hovering above the ground. It was the feeling you get when someone is watching you, but that was impossible. He was alone, completely alone. He scanned the horizon, his eyes narrowing at the distant hills. Nothing moved. "Pull it together, Jack," he muttered to himself, his voice muffled inside the helmet. He returned to his work, but the unease didn't leave him. He felt it again, stronger this time, like a faint vibration in the air. Before he could react, a soft blue mist began to swirl around him. It seemed to come from nowhere, rising from the ground and drifting down from the sky all at once. Jack stumbled back, his heart pounding. "What the?" His voice caught in his throat as the mist grew denser, wrapping around him like a cocoon. The HUD in his helmet flickered, the oxygen levels and temperature readings jumping wildly. Jack tried to step back, but the mist seemed to follow him, clinging to his suit. Then, before he could do anything else, the mist surged forward, passing through his helmet like it wasn't even there. Jack fell to the ground, gasping for air. His vision blurred, and his ears rang. He felt like he was drowning, even though his suit was functioning perfectly. Just as suddenly as it had started, the sensation stopped. The mist was gone. For a moment, Jack lay there, staring at the dull gray sky. His breathing was ragged, his body trembling. He pushed himself up slowly, checking his suit for any damage. Everything looked fine, but something felt off. "Hello," a soft, unfamiliar voice echoed in his mind. Jack froze. The voice wasn't coming from his comm system. It wasn't coming from his helmet or any device he was wearing. It was inside his head. "Can you hear me?" the voice asked again. It sounded young, almost childlike, but there was a strange accent to it, like someone trying to mimic human speech. "Who's there?" Jack said out loud, his voice shaky. He looked around, but the barren landscape was as empty as ever. "Oh, you can hear me," the voice exclaimed, sounding both surprised and delighted. "This is amazing. I've never been inside a human before." Jack's blood ran cold. "Inside a what?" "Oh, sorry. I didn't mean to scare you," the voice said quickly. "I didn't think this would actually work. I'm Lyra. I think I might have merged with you." "Merged?" Jack repeated, his voice rising. "What does that even mean? Who are you? What are you?" "I told you, I'm Lyra," the voice said again, almost defensively. I was kind of floating around, and then you showed up. I didn't mean to end up in your head. It just happened." Jack's mind raced. Was this some kind of hallucination? Had the mist poisoned him? But he felt fine, physically, at least. Mentally, he was struggling to keep up. "This isn't real," he muttered. "It's not real. I'm just imagining things." "I'm real," Lyra insisted. "I can prove it. Look over there." Before Jack could argue, his eyes were drawn to a movement on the horizon. A shadow darted between the rocks, too fast for him to get a good look. His breath caught in his throat. Something was out there. "See," Lyra said proudly. "I can see through your eyes. Isn't it cool?" Jack stood frozen, his heart pounding. He wasn't alone, not on the planet, and not in his own mind. The unlikely bond. Jack stood motionless, staring at the distant horizon, where the shadow had disappeared. His mind screamed for answers, but his body refused to move. Was the voice in his head controlling him? Or was it fear? "Why aren't you running?" Lyra's voice chimed in, light and curious, as if they weren't in the middle of a crisis. "Because I don't know what's happening." Jack snapped, his voice echoing inside his helmet. "Who are you? What do you want?" "Right now, I want you to keep breathing," Lyra said calmly. "If you stop, I stop too. So, maybe move." Jack gritted his teeth, but his survival instincts kicked in. He started walking. No, running, away from where he saw the shadow. Each step was heavy, his thoughts racing faster than his legs. The voice hadn't gone away. It hadn't faded like a bad dream or some hallucination. It was still there, chirping in his head like it belonged. "I'm sorry, okay," Lyra said, sounding a bit embarrassed. "I know this is weird. I didn't mean to, well, exist inside your brain. But this planet's energy is unstable, and your body just seemed safer." "Safer?" Jack panted, glancing over his shoulder. "What does that even mean? And how are you in my brain?" "Well," Lyra hesitated, "you have these pathways in your mind. Your neurons, I think you call them. They're perfect for storing energy. I just slipped in." "Slipped in?" Jack's voice rose in disbelief. "You're an alien stowaway in my head. I prefer guest," Lyra corrected with an air of dignity. "And technically, I saved you. That mist wasn't random, you know. It was meant to break you down." Jack slowed his pace, his breath heavy. "Break me down? Like, kill me?" "Not exactly," Lyra said quickly. "More like dissolve you into pure energy. It's a process we use to extract resources. I kind of stopped it." "Stopped it?" Jack shouted, stumbling to a halt. "Why didn't you stop it before it started?" "I didn't know humans would even come here." Lyra defended herself. "Your species wasn't supposed to find this planet for another 100 cycles." Jack leaned against a jagged rock, trying to calm his racing heart. "You're telling me my brain is now an alien hotel, and I'm alive because you felt sorry for me." Lyra was silent for a moment. Then softly, she said, "I didn't feel sorry for you. I was curious." Jack froze again, his anger mixing with confusion. "Curious?" "Yes," Lyra admitted. "Humans are strange. Your thoughts, your emotions, they're chaotic, but they're fascinating. I've never seen anything like it." Jack didn't know whether to laugh or scream. He stared at the rocky horizon, his mind a whirlwind. If this thing, this Lyra, was telling the truth, then he owed her his life. But he still didn't trust her. Not yet. "Okay," he said finally, his voice steady but tense. "If you're really stuck in my head, prove you're useful. What was that thing I saw earlier?" "The shadow." "Ah, the predator," Lyra said, her voice darkening. "It's one of the planet's protectors. Think of it as a living alarm system. It hunts anything that doesn't belong." Jack's stomach turned. "And I'm guessing I don't belong." "Nope," Lyra said cheerfully. "But don't worry. I can help you avoid it. I know this planet inside and out." Jack narrowed his eyes. "Why would you help me?" "Because if it catches you," Lyra said matter-of-factly, "it'll probably destroy me too." Jack sighed. "Great. A survival partnership with an alien squatter in my brain. Just what I needed." "It's not all bad," Lyra said, her tone brightening. "I can see things you can't, feel things you don't. Like, for example, stop moving." "What?" Jack asked, startled. "Stop," Lyra shouted. "Something's under the ground." Jack froze mid-step. His eyes darted to the dusty surface, where small vibrations rippled outward from his boots. He didn't breathe, didn't move. The ground was alive. "Take 2 steps back," Lyra whispered. "Slowly." Jack obeyed, his muscles taut. As he moved, a section of the ground ahead of him erupted. A massive, spindly creature burst out, its sharp legs clicking against the rocks. It looked like a spider, but far worse. Its body shimmered with blue energy, and its many eyes glowed like tiny stars. "Run," Lyra said simply. Jack didn't hesitate. He sprinted across the rocky terrain, the creature screeching behind him. His lungs burned, his legs ached, but adrenaline kept him going. Lyra guided him, shouting directions in his head as he zigzagged through the landscape. Left. Now right. Jump over that crack. Somehow he managed to stay ahead of the predator. After what felt like hours, Lyra finally said, "Okay, stop here." Jack stumbled to a halt, collapsing onto the ground. He gasped for air, his body shaking. The predator was gone, or at least he couldn't hear it anymore. "You're welcome," Lyra said, her tone smug. Jack glared at nothing, his chest heaving. "I didn't ask for this. And yet here we are," Lyra said, almost teasingly. "Face it, Jack, you'd be dead without me." For once, Jack had no argument. He sat there in the alien dirt, catching his breath, wondering how he had gone from a simple mission to running for his life with an alien voice in his head. A predator's chase. The sound was the first thing Jack noticed. It wasn't loud, but it vibrated through his chest, like a low growl from a deep cave. He didn't know where it was coming from, but it was getting closer. "Do you feel that?" Jack whispered, his voice barely audible. "Feel it. I can hear its hunger," Lyra replied, her tone unusually serious. "It's hunting you, Jack." Jack's pulse quickened. He scanned the rocky terrain, his eyes darting between the jagged boulders and cracks in the ground. The planet's eerie stillness had been unnerving before, but now it was terrifying. Each shadow felt alive, each crevice a potential trap. "You're really bad at staying calm," Lyra said, her voice cutting into his panic. "You need to breathe." "Easy for you to say," Jack muttered. "You're not the one being hunted." "Technically, I am," Lyra corrected. "If you die, I die too. So maybe trust me when I say, move. Now." Jack didn't need to be told twice. He bolted toward a narrow canyon, the terrain uneven beneath his boots. Behind him, the sound grew louder, a guttural, clicking noise that sent shivers down his spine. He didn't dare look back. "Left," Lyra shouted suddenly. Jack veered left, narrowly missing a sharp outcrop of rock. He was running blind, relying entirely on the voice in his head. It felt insane, but there was no time to question it. The clicks were closer now, accompanied by a strange hiss that made the hairs on the back of his neck stand up. "What is that thing?" Jack gasped, his legs burning as he sprinted. "One of the planet's apex predators," Lyra answered. "It doesn't have a name in your language, but think of it as a really fast, really smart spider." "Great," Jack panted. "A nightmare spider. Just what I needed." "It's not just a spider," Lyra added. "It's bioengineered. Faster, stronger, and capable of tracking prey over miles. You're the mouse, by the way." "Thanks for the pep talk," Jack growled, leaping over a fissure in the ground. The predator let out a high-pitched screech, the sound echoing through the canyon. Jack's stomach twisted. He could hear it now. Sharp legs scraping against rock, the weight of the creature pounding the ground as it closed in. "Right. Now," Lyra shouted. Jack turned sharply, nearly losing his balance as he stumbled into a narrow passage. The walls were so close they scraped against his suit, but he kept running. The passage twisted and turned, and Jack prayed it would slow the predator down. "Keep going," Lyra urged. "You're almost there." "Almost where?" Jack snapped, his voice ragged. "A choke point," Lyra said. "It won't be able to follow you. Trust me." Jack had no choice but to trust her. His legs felt like lead, his lungs burning with every breath. The passage opened into a wider space, and Jack immediately spotted what Lyra meant. A cluster of jagged rocks jutted out from the ground, forming a narrow gap barely wide enough for him to squeeze through. "Go! Now!" Lyra yelled. Jack didn't hesitate. He dove through the gap, the sharp rocks tearing at his suit. He landed hard on the other side, rolling to his feet just as the predator reached the entrance. It screeched in frustration, its massive body too large to fit through the narrow opening. For a moment, Jack thought he was safe. Then the creature did something he hadn't expected. It stopped. Its glowing eyes focused on him, unblinking, and it let out a low guttural growl. Jack felt a chill run down his spine. "It's thinking," Lyra said quietly. "Thinking?" Jack hissed. "You said it was a hunter, not a genius." "It's both," Lyra replied. "And it's not giving up." The predator backed away from the gap, disappearing into the shadows. Jack's heart pounded. He leaned against a rock, trying to catch his breath. "Why isn't it attacking?" he asked. "It's not done with you yet," Lyra said ominously. "It's planning." Jack swallowed hard, his hands trembling. "Planning what?" "Predators like this don't just chase," Lyra said. "They stalk. They wait for you to make a mistake. And when you do—" Jack didn't need her to finish the sentence. He looked around the small clearing, searching for anything he could use as a weapon or a hiding place. The rocks were sharp, the ground uneven, but nothing looked useful. "What do I do now?" he asked, his voice barely above a whisper. "Keep moving," Lyra said. "It's testing you. The moment you stop, it wins." Jack took a deep breath and pushed himself to his feet. His body ached, his mind was racing, but he had no choice. He couldn't stop. Not now. The hidden facility. Jack's boots crunched against the rocky ground, the sound unnaturally loud in the dead silence. His breaths were shallow, each one labored as he trudged forward. The predator was still out there, lurking in the shadows. Every now and then, Jack would hear a faint clicking noise, far off but unmistakable. It was toying with him. "This isn't working," he muttered under his breath. "I can't keep running forever." "You won't have to," Lyra said confidently. "We're close." Jack narrowed his eyes, scanning the desolate horizon. "Close to what?" "To the reason you're here," Lyra replied cryptically. "I've been trying to guide you this whole time. There's something I need to show you." "Something you need to show me," Jack snapped, his frustration boiling over. "You're the one who got me into this mess." "Technically, the mist got you into this mess," Lyra countered. "I'm just trying to keep us alive." Jack gritted his teeth but kept moving. The terrain had changed, subtly at first, but now it was unmistakable. The jagged rocks had given way to smoother, darker surfaces, like obsidian glass. Strange grooves and patterns crisscrossed the ground, too precise to be natural. "What is this?" Jack asked, slowing to a stop. "The edge of the facility," Lyra said. "This planet isn't just a planet. It's an experiment, and you're standing on the control panel." Jack stared at the ground, his mind racing. "An experiment? What kind of experiment?" "The kind that watches," Lyra said. "For centuries, this place has been observing, recording, learning. Not just about the creatures here, but about your kind too." Jack felt a chill run down his spine. "My kind? You mean humans?" "Yes," Lyra said softly. "Humans have always been fascinating to us. Your adaptability, your resilience, it's unlike anything we've seen. This facility was built to study that." Jack shook his head, trying to make sense of it. Why would anyone need to study humans from so far away? "What's the point?" Lyra hesitated before answering. "Because some of us think your kind is the key to everything." "Everything," Jack repeated, incredulous. "That's not an answer." Before Lyra could respond, the ground beneath Jack's feet began to hum. A soft, pulsing light spread across the dark surface, illuminating intricate lines that formed a vast, glowing pattern. Jack took a step back, his heart pounding. "What's happening?" he asked. "I activated it," Lyra admitted. "I had to. The facility recognizes me. It'll open now." "Open?" Jack's voice rose. "Open to what?" As if on cue, a section of the ground ahead of him began to shift. A seam appeared, and with a deep mechanical groan, a massive hatch slid open. A narrow staircase descended into the darkness below, bathed in the faint blue glow of the facility's lights. "This is insane," Jack muttered, staring at the entrance. "You want me to go down there?" "It's the only way," Lyra said urgently. "If you stay out here, the Predator will find you. Down there, we have a chance." Jack hesitated, his instincts screaming at him to turn back. But the faint clicking noise was growing louder again, closer. He didn't have a choice. "Fine," he said, swallowing hard. "But if this is a trap, I'm taking you down with me." "Fair deal," Lyra said, her voice tinged with amusement. Jack descended the staircase, his hand gripping the railing for support. The air grew cooler as he moved deeper into the facility, the glow of the walls reflecting off his visor. The space opened up into a vast chamber, filled with alien machinery. Tall, sleek structures hummed with energy, their surfaces covered in glyphs Jack couldn't begin to understand. "What is all this?" he whispered, his voice echoing in the cavernous space. "Data storage," Lyra explained. "Memories, recordings, simulations. Everything this facility has learned about humans is stored here." Jack walked cautiously between the towering structures, his eyes scanning the strange symbols. He couldn't shake the feeling that he was being watched. "You said this place studies humans," Jack said. "But why? What are you trying to learn?" Lyra hesitated again. "Not me. Them." "Who's them?" Jack pressed, his voice rising. Before Lyra could answer, a loud alarm blared through the facility. The glyphs on the walls turned red, and the hum of the machinery grew louder. Jack spun around, his heart racing. "What now?" he shouted. "We're not alone," Lyra said, her voice filled with fear. "The Sentinels are coming." Jack's blood ran cold. "Sentinels? They're the facility's guardians," Lyra said quickly. "And they don't like intruders." A low, mechanical growl echoed through the chamber, followed by the sound of heavy footsteps. Jack turned toward the noise and saw them. Tall, humanoid machines with glowing eyes and sharp angular limbs. They moved with precision, their steps deliberate. "What do we do?" Jack whispered, backing away. "Run," Lyra said simply. "Run now." The alien sentinels. The air in the chamber vibrated with a low hum as the sentinels moved closer. Their metallic bodies gleamed under the red glow of the warning lights, their sharp, angular forms like something pulled straight from a nightmare. Jack's chest tightened, his every instinct screaming at him to run. "I told you this was a bad idea," he hissed, gripping the nearest piece of alien machinery for balance. "You think I planned this?" Lyra shot back. "Do you have any idea how terrifying this is for me? I'm in your head. I can feel your heart pounding. Then maybe help me survive." Jack snapped, his voice echoing through the chamber. The sentinels stopped, their glowing eyes scanning the room. Jack held his breath, his body pressed against the cold, humming console. The machines didn't speak or make any sound other than the faint whir of their movements, but there was intelligence behind their glowing eyes. Calculating, patient. "They're analyzing you," Lyra whispered, "trying to decide if you're a threat." "Well, let's help them decide I'm not," Jack whispered back, panic edging his voice. "Too late," Lyra said grimly. "They've already made up their minds." One of the sentinels tilted its head, its gaze locking onto Jack. Without warning, it lunged forward, its sharp limbs slicing through the air with terrifying speed. Jack barely managed to dive out of the way, crashing into a console as sparks flew around him. "They're fast," Jack gasped, scrambling to his feet. "And deadly," Lyra added unhelpfully. "But I have an idea." See that panel on your left? The one glowing blue. Hit it. Hard. What? Why? Jack asked, dodging another swipe from the sentinel. Just trust me, Lyra yelled. Jack didn't have time to argue. He sprinted to the panel, ducking as another sentinel swung its blade-like arm at him. With all his strength, he slammed his fist into the glowing blue surface. The panel flashed, and the entire chamber trembled. What did I just do? Jack asked, backing away as the sentinels paused mid-motion. You activated a local power surge, Lyra explained. It'll disrupt their systems. Briefly. Briefly. Jack shouted as the sentinels twitched, their glowing eyes flickering. Yeah, so maybe don't stand still, Lyra said. Jack bolted toward an opening at the far end of the chamber. The sentinels, though momentarily disoriented, were already recovering. One of them let out a piercing screech, the sound reverberating through the facility. They're calling for reinforcements, Lyra warned. Of course they are, Jack muttered, his legs burning as he ran. What's next? A death ray. A giant trap door. Don't give them ideas, Lyra quipped. But there's something important ahead. You need to reach it. Important? Like what? Jack demanded. Just keep moving, Lyra insisted. The corridor ahead narrowed, the walls lined with glowing glyphs that pulsed in time with Jack's pounding heart. The sound of the sentinels' footsteps grew louder behind him, the rhythmic thud of their movements like a countdown to his demise. Take the next left, Lyra instructed. Jack rounded the corner and skidded to a stop. Before him stood a massive door, its surface shimmering with a strange golden light. Unlike the rest of the facility, this door felt alive. This is it, Lyra said, her voice almost reverent. The control room. The control room, Jack repeated, his breathing ragged. Control for what? For the experiment, Lyra said. And for your survival. The sentinel's screeches echoed down the corridor, snapping Jack out of his daze. He approached the door, searching for a way to open it. There's no handle, he yelled. It's not that simple, Lyra said. You have to let it recognize you. Place your hand on the center. Jack hesitated for a split second, then pressed his gloved hand against the glowing surface. The door pulsed beneath his touch, its golden light spreading outward in intricate patterns. With a deep mechanical groan, it slid open, revealing a dark, cavernous space beyond. Go, Lyra urged. I'll seal it behind you. Jack dashed inside, and the door slammed shut just as the first sentinel rounded the corner. The sound of their metallic limbs pounding against the barrier echoed through the control room. But for now, Jack was safe. He collapsed to the floor, his chest heaving. The room was vast, its walls covered in massive screens displaying images of Earth, humans, and other alien worlds. In the center stood a console unlike any Jack had ever seen, its surface glowing with shifting symbols. What is this place? He asked, his voice barely above a whisper. This, Lyra said softly, is the heart of the facility, and it's about to change everything. The final conflict. The room pulsed with a faint, rhythmic glow, as if the entire facility were alive and waiting. Jack stood before the central console, its swirling symbols shifting and rearranging like they were aware of his presence. He could feel the weight of it, something ancient, something powerful, something far beyond human comprehension. This is it, Lyra said quietly in his mind. Her usually playful tone was replaced with a seriousness Jack hadn't heard before. The core. The decision point. Jack frowned, wiping sweat from his brow. Decision point. What decision? Before Lyra could answer, the pounding began. The door he had sealed moments ago shuddered violently as the sentinels slammed against it. The sound was deafening, metal on metal, and Jack knew it was only a matter of time before they broke through. Yeah, we don't have time for riddles, Jack snapped. What am I supposed to do? Lyra hesitated, as if she were afraid of what she was about to say. You have two options, One of them will save us. The other will destroy this place. Jack stared at the console, its lights reflecting off his visor. Destroy it? Why would I do that? Because this facility wasn't just studying humans, Lyra explained. It was preparing to use what it learned. If you leave it intact, it won't stop. It'll keep expanding, keep taking. And Earth will be next. Jack's stomach dropped. You're telling me this whole place is a threat to humanity? Yes, Lyra said, her voice heavy. But if you destroy it, you destroy me too. The pounding on the door grew louder, cracks forming along its edges. Jack's hands clenched into fists. Why didn't you tell me this earlier? Because I didn't know you care, Lyra admitted softly. But now, I think you do. Jack's mind raced. He had been angry with her, frustrated by her presence in his head, but she had saved him, again and again. She had guided him, protected him, even when she didn't have to. And now she was asking him to choose between her and the survival of his own species. Isn't there another way? Jack asked, his voice breaking. Maybe, Lyra said, a hint of desperation creeping in. The core has a separation function. It might remove me from your mind and give me a body of my own. But I don't know if it works. No one's ever tried it. Jack stepped closer to the console, his eyes scanning the symbols. They seemed to shift faster as he approached, forming two distinct patterns. One glowed red, the other blue. The choice was clear. What happens if it doesn't work? Jack asked, his voice barely above a whisper. Then we both die, Lyra said simply. The pounding on the door reached a fever pitch, and with a deafening crash, the sentinels broke through. Jack turned to see their glowing eyes piercing the darkness, their razor-sharp limbs gleaming as they advanced. We're out of time, Lyra shouted. Jack, make the choice. Jack's heart pounded in his chest as his hand hovered over the console. The sentinels were closing in, their footsteps echoing like a drumbeat of doom. His mind screamed at him to act, to do something, anything. Red, destroy the facility, save Earth, and lose Lyra forever. Blue, try the separation, risk everything, and hope for the impossible. I'm sorry, Jack whispered, his hand moving toward the console. The sentinels charged, their claws slicing through the air as Jack made his choice. The resolution. Jack's hand slammed down on the console, the glowing blue symbol lighting up beneath his fingers. For a split second, nothing happened. The sentinels were still coming, their metallic limbs slicing through the air, and Jack braced himself for the end. Then, the room exploded with light. A shockwave radiated outward from the console, sending the sentinels crashing into the walls. Their glowing eyes dimmed, their movements jerky and uncoordinated as the facility seemed to turn against them. The glyphs on the walls pulsed rapidly, a cascade of alien symbols flowing like a river of energy. Jack stumbled back, shielding his eyes from the brilliance. Lyra, what's happening? It worked, Lyra said, her voice trembling with awe. You triggered the separation process, but I didn't think it would feel like this. Jack felt a strange sensation, like a thread being pulled from deep within his mind. It wasn't painful, but it was overwhelming. A mix of emotions and memories flashing before his eyes. He saw glimpses of Lyra's existence, her curiosity, her loneliness, her desperation to connect. Jack, Lyra's voice came again, softer now. I didn't mean for any of this to happen. I just wanted to live. Jack's throat tightened. You'll make it. You have to. The console emitted a high-pitched hum, and suddenly, the light converged into a single point in the center of the room. It swirled like a miniature galaxy, colors shifting and blending in mesmerizing patterns. Slowly, the light began to take shape, a humanoid figure, delicate and otherworldly, with shimmering, translucent skin and glowing eyes that mirrored the glyphs on the walls. Jack stared in stunned silence. Lyra. The figure blinked, its eyes locking onto his. When it spoke, the voice was unmistakably hers. I'm here. Jack took a step forward, his legs unsteady. It worked. You're alive. I think so, Lyra said, looking down at her new body. She flexed her fingers, her movements tentative and curious. This is incredible. Before Jack could respond, the facility shuddered violently. The lights flickered, and a deep rumbling noise echoed through the chamber. What now? Jack groaned, glancing at the damaged sentinels. They were still twitching, but the facility itself seemed to be destabilizing. The separation overloaded the core, Lyra explained, her voice urgent. This place is collapsing. We need to get out. Jack nodded, adrenaline surging through him. Is there a way? There's a ship, Lyra said, already moving toward a hidden panel in the wall. She pressed her hand against it, and a hidden door slid open, revealing a sleek alien craft. Come on. Jack didn't hesitate. He followed her into the ship, its interior glowing with soft, blue light. The controls lit up as Lyra placed her hand on a central panel, her connection to the facility evident in how easily she activated the systems. Strap in, she said, her voice firm but excited. I've never flown one of these, but I'm pretty sure I can figure it out. Pretty sure? Jack asked, buckling himself into the co-pilot's seat. That's not exactly comforting. The ship roared to life, its engines humming with a power that vibrated through Jack's bones. Lyra grinned, her confidence growing as the controls responded to her touch. The craft lifted off just as the chamber began to collapse, debris crashing down around them. They shot out of the facility, the ship weaving through narrow tunnels as Lyra piloted with surprising skill. The surface of the planet came into view, the barren landscape stretching out beneath them. Behind them, the facility erupted in a massive explosion, sending a plume of blue energy into the sky. Jack let out a shaky breath. You did it. You actually did it. Lyra glanced at him, her glowing eyes softening. We did it. As the ship broke through the planet's atmosphere, Jack stared out at the stars. Earth was far away, but for the first time, he didn't feel alone. Beside him, Lyra sat in silence, her gaze fixed on the endless expanse of space. What happens now? Jack asked after a moment. Lyra smiled faintly. We figure it out, together. Jack leaned back in his seat, a small smile forming on his lips. He didn't know what the future held, but for the first time in a long time, he felt like it was worth finding out. The ship accelerated into the void, leaving the ruined facility and its dark secrets behind. For Jack and Lyra, the adventure was just beginning.